Hello, this is January Jones for KGNU. It's the economy. And in this series, we are calling back to the money. We're talking about financial issues, money issues with a feminine perspective. And today joining me is Jen Ewan of the Pledgettes. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. You're talking about my favorite topic, so I'm grateful to be here.
These are kind of the conversations that I think you were trying to raise, and me as well, in my own journey, right? As we're all on this financial journey that changes, as we go through our decades of life, right?
Yes.
And how we think about money, frame our financial freedom, what is security. All these questions are constant, and there's a lot of noise out there about what you should be doing, right?
I hate the word should. In my entire life, I never did what I should do, right? And I think that's something that is a lot of noise in the personal finance space and the investment space and all of the financial spaces is this idea of should, that there's a prescriptive way to win and to find the best investment and crunch this number and follow this plan. And I think we're all complex, unique, special people, and we can all have a good life and a good relationship with money. So I'm never striving to be the best or the expert or the guru or the winner. Like, I just want to have a good relationship with money. I want to have a good life. And there's lots of choices to do that.
Well, tell me about that. So that has shaped your career. You are the founder of the Pledgettes. So tell me about what the Pledgettes are.
So the Pledgettes is a financial community for women. We host weekly money talks in our community. We've got some mostly online stuff. We do some stuff in Denver. We have speaker events where we'll invite somebody to share their favorite money topic. We talk to financial therapists about money mindset and certified financial planners around investing. And we also have our Financial Friends events, which are social events where we just show up and talk about whatever's on our mind. And that idea of just showing up and talking about a financial topic has led me to a partnership with Capital One Cafe here in Denver, where each month we pick a different topic and bring people together to discuss it. So in March, we're talking your biggest raise. In the future, we're talking about wins for financial well-being, building your financial aid team, and we'll continue this series. And that's open to everyone beyond the women in our financial community. So it's just, I love being a financial friend where I can facilitate money talks around different topics.
Well, in thinking about that, people get shy about their finances, right? It is very personal, right? So if you guys aren't talking about how to be like angel investors and what to invest in the stock market, your topics are much more life relevant, right? And more personal as far as when you're talking about what is your relationship with money and what do you have in your life, for this financial security and choice.
Yeah, and we do talk about investments. I think we just talk about it in a different format where there's the noise of the prescription of like, follow these 10 steps and you'll be rich. And I think there's many paths to building wealth and having a good life. And so I love to hear people's experience because we all have something to learn and we all have something to share. And I'm always eager to learn what other people have done because there's not a magic way to be successful in earning your biggest raise or investing in real estate or angel investing. There's not one way to do it. And when we get to hear and almost crowdsource multiple experiences, I think we can learn and find something that's true to us.
Well, when people join your group, have you found that there's a warm-up period, like the way that they begin to first share and talk about what's going on with them from when they come to the first events, and how they kind of evolve?
Yeah, that is a great question because so often we learn about money from our parents who learned about it from our grandparents and our great-grandparents because money's this taboo topic. And sometimes if we don't go outside of our family because our family told us it's a taboo topic, it's rude, don't talk about money, we don't have a space to talk about money. And our spaces might just be our parents who maybe had a negative relationship with money or a stressful relationship with money. And when we don't see other experiences, we kind of feel like we got to do it all on our own and figure it out all on our own. And read the books and make the investments and hire the right people. And oh, that sounds so overwhelming. And kind of going back to the idea of money should be fun, I was grateful that I was raised in a family that openly talked about money. And then I married an entrepreneurial partner who had a different relationship with money. And when him and I talk about money, that has evolved my money mindset. So like my financial journey has been a series of these right time, right place money conversations. And I want to be that for others. So some people show up and they're eager, they're ready, they've wanted to have a space and have the people to talk about money. And other people want to lurk, or they're apprehensive about showing up because they don't know if like everybody's going to be more advanced than them, or if they're going to be more advanced for others. And when we kind of just show up and you see that it's this judgment-free, healthy place where you can show up as you are, and that the rules are not to judge. We don't use the word should. So if you show up to an event, nobody should be saying, oh, January, you should do this and you should do that. This is what I've done in my experience. So I think we've nurtured this culture where there's not blame and shame. There's just show up and share, and people will share their experiences and make connections to help you on your way.
So can you share with me any kind of examples of members that have had maybe journeys that are relatable?
Yeah. One of my favorite kind of financial journeys that the Pledgettes has been on is with one of our earliest members who joined 3.5 years ago. And she joined because she wanted to be less frugal. She grew up in a very frugal family. Money was not fun. And since joining, she has earned a raise and a promotion at her company. She increased her contributions to her 401k plan. She has done her estate planning. She has bought an investment property. Her and her partner are having more money conversations. So it's been a series over 3.5 years of stuff that has happened. And last December, at sort of one of our financial celebration end of the year events, another member that had just joined a couple months prior is like, well, I got all of my accounts into an app where I can see them all in one place. And so we got to celebrate with the same enthusiasm all those pieces that everybody else is doing, because it's like, wow, you've done all this in 3.5 years, and great, you've done this in 3 months. And since we're not playing a zero-sum game where there are winners and losers, we get to celebrate everyone.
Well, let's talk about this Capital One Cafe series you're doing. It's an open conversation, and the topic that was for March was your biggest raise. And I'm really interested in this because coming from a corporate culture, you're not supposed to talk about that.
No.
They don't want your coworkers to know. HR says, shush, don't tell about bonuses. Like, you sign employment contracts, or, when you part employment, there's also non-disclosures. There seems to be all these mechanisms telling you don't talk about how much you're actually making.
Yes. And it's like, and in that silence, the companies win, and companies aren't even people. So I don't know why all these people are committed to the company winning, but I get it because I've been there before and I've kept quiet about things. When we talk about your biggest raise, the at the Capital One event, like there's going to be people from several companies. So while maybe the rule at your company is not to talk about it with your direct coworkers, there are people you can talk about it with, like by coming in and talking to people in your industry, past employees of that company. At the event that we just had, somebody who shared their experience, her boss was leaving, and sort of as a departure lunch, took this person out to lunch and was like, this is what I've been making. If I've recommended you for this job, this is what they were paying me. And then in addition, she went out and saw like the market rate of what was happening. And when they gave her the lowball number, she just stayed quiet and kind of like put it back on them to like solve, like, no, that's not the market rate. A $10,000 raise to take on so much more work is not worth it. And so her experience involved going out and looking at Glassdoor to find out what the market rate is, talking to her mentor, talking to other people in the industry to figure out what she should advocate for. And so even if there's a company culture not to talk within the company, there's other places you can talk. And I think we should advocate for each other. And again, it's a zero-sum game. So if you get a raise, it doesn't mean that I don't get a raise. We're on different paths, and so we can share our experiences and learn from each other and support and celebrate each other.
Yeah, well, that lack of kind of transparency about it, but it's also within a company, you're trying to protect your own, right? And so, like, we feel threatened. And like you said, just because I get a raise doesn't mean you're not going to, but maybe it does. Have you learned anything from talking just so openly about salaries and bonuses with people within companies? Have you had any kind of feedback about how those conversations can, be less uncomfortable, because you want to be treated equal in this issue of equity. Like, you didn't know to ask for $10,000 more because you're not supposed to talk about it. But so what if you do?
There's a lot of power in the choices that we make. And so if pay transparency and equity is important to us, we're going to seek out the companies that are following the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act here in Colorado and having pay transparency on job descriptions. We're going to search for the companies that are testing pay transparency in different ways, whether it's salary bands or just being more open about it. Even there have been companies too that have built whole websites where you can go look at people's pay based on years of experience and job title and location. And so I am a huge fan of companies that are trying different things, because I think everything has to work for the company and for the employees that are in the company. Because I think if you were super secretive and then the next day you're like, pay transparency, here's a sheet of all the employees and how much they make, that culture is going to get a little rocky for a while. And the people who aren't on board with the pay transparency are probably going to leave. And there's going to be high performers that are like, well, I like that I make more than everyone and that it's a secret that I make more than everyone. So I'm going to go find a company that is more secretive about pay because that's benefited me individually. And then there are going to be people who are like, what? You make that much more than me? I'm leaving this company because I want more equity, and I'm going to go find a company that has more pay transparency. Or maybe this exercise of pay transparency means the lower earners do get automatic bonuses or raises to get bumped up to the where they should be. So nothing's perfect. Nothing's prescriptive. Everybody's going to kind of have to figure out what it means on their professional journey individually, and companies are going to have to figure out what works for them and their employees.
Let's go back to the mission and maybe your vision for the Pledgettes, how you're putting that mission and vision into action.
Awesome. So the Pledgettes is on a mission to abolish the gender wealth gap. So your wealth is your assets, bank accounts, the value of your house, anything that you own, could be your rare collectibles, minus your liabilities. So any debt that you have, student loans, car payments, mortgage, and that's your wealth. That's your net worth or your wealth number. So there is a gender wealth gap. Male version of you will have 3 times as much wealth at retirement age because men earn more money, take fewer, quote, breaks in their career for caregiving, younger and older, and men invest earlier and more often. That's what the Merrill Lynch 2017 report showed, that the gap is 3 times, or that's over $1 million more at retirement age. And then we also have the pay gap, the wage gap, the income gap, that is often talked about too. And so I think like that is one piece of it, and there's a lot of people who are advocating for that through the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act here in Colorado. But I really want to focus on that wealth gap. So earn more and utilize your money in different ways. Just be intentional on your spending, banking, earning, investing, and giving so that you're building wealth in alignment with your values and goals.
And so, how do you enact that within the programming, the events, and what you facilitate online in the virtual community of the Pledgettes?
Yeah, this is a huge mission to abolish the gender wealth gap.
You think?
So there are some people who show up that are very excited and motivated by it, and they want to, flip over tables and do things legislatively and very outspoken in a large scale way. And then there's also people who are showing up because individually they want to work on their own relationship with money, and they, quote, know they should and want a place to do that in a different way. And so it's both individual actions and then to have these bigger conversations. So I'm grateful for opportunities like this where I can have this conversation here. So it looks like a lot of different ways because we need the people who want to do big things and change for their community. We also need the people who want to do it at an individual level and at every level of their financial journey. So we have people coming in working on debt. We have one member right now who's working on a debt goal, and she's been in over $40,000 of debt for over 5 years. She'll get out of it, she gets back into it. And just this debt cycle can be very cyclical and hard to get out of. And right now, she's like, everything just feels different. She's like, the blame and shame is gone. This is a different system. This is a different process. My conversations with my husband are different around this. And so there is like a different way. And instead of the prescriptive of like, okay, here's the snowball method and here's the avalanche method to paying off debt, which one do you want to do? Pick one. It's more about, well, why do you want to get out of debt? And sort of this like idea of a should goal of like, well, I should get out of debt because I shouldn't have debt isn't motivating, and that's just going to get us back into debt. But then when she kind of steps back and zooms out and it's like, well, if I'm out of debt, then my husband and I have less financial stress, so there's less stress in our marriage, and then we can have more fun and we can plan ahead for vacations or home improvement projects. And like this life that she's living of less financial stress and more choices is very appealing, and she hasn't had that in her debt payment goal before. It's just been get out of debt because you should.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. I think that resonates with people, but you mentioned to me in another conversation these debt goals. And so it seems like that's probably one of the kind of primary things people are thinking about when they do join.
That is certainly one. So we have women who are coming in a place of stress. They have debt goals, or they feel like they're under earning, or they don't know what to do. We have other people who have done what they should with their money, but they want to do more. They want to get into ESG or impact investing. They want to be more strategic in their giving. They want to earn more and advocate for others to earn more. So people come into the community. It's a rich community of people in different places with different financial goals. And because we're not competing with each other, we get to celebrate all those goals. And then somebody who's working on debt is actually in a small accountability group with another person who's working on 3 versions of what financial independence looks like for her. And it's cool because they're seeing the similarities in their goals and in their journeys of, oh, I got to change my mindset around what is enough and around how I feel about money to be able to do this. So we got to do that work together. We've got to be very clear on our goals. We've got to build our financial aid team, make a plan. And it's great to see those women in community because sometimes I feel like maybe somebody who's in debt hangs around with more people who are in debt. And then it's sort of like dieting. Then it's like if your friend falls off the diet, then, well, I'll fall off the diet too. It's like when we stop working the plan because somebody else has fallen off the plan, then it's easy for us to as well. And so I think this rich community of different people and different experiences and showing up for different reasons makes it a very valuable community.
Well, you've mentioned a couple of things, I guess mechanisms to kind of achieve the mission. You said this financial friends idea, but
Mhm.
also you just said accountability circles.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you land on these kind of ways to get places, these mechanisms, when you structured this organization?
I didn't know what I was structuring when I structured it. So at the time, my husband and I had some real estate investments. We also owned a restaurant. I quickly learned I did not belong in the restaurant. I slowed everybody down. I'm not good in a kitchen. It's not my strength. But I loved our employees and I'm very grateful for that experience. So he got me out of the restaurant and I had this white space to figure out what I should do, what my purpose is. And I really have been exploring a lot and working on my own financial goals in a silo, and I needed community. I needed mentorship. I needed financial friends. I needed different people to help me on my with my unique goals and on my journey. And so I knew it was going to be community first, and we were just going to get women together to talk. So we have the financial community, which is an online community that's free to join. Then we have our financial friends social events virtually and in Denver where we just come together and talk about whatever is on our mind. Then we have our financial literacy program where we are learning from speakers. It's not linear, it's total autonomous, but we have events coming up with financial therapists on the psychology of gifting and how different pieces of money feel to us. What's our relationship with debt? What's our relationship to earning? What's our relationship to investing? We also are learning about different programs where you can move to different cities and earn money by just moving or starting a business there or building a home there. We have learned about cryptocurrency and day trading and stuff that makes me very stressed and isn't part of my plan. But the Pledgettes is not Jen's plan. The Pledgettes is find your own plan. And then we have our accountability group, which is a group of 4 who come together with clarifying a goal and making a plan to work on that. So my idea with the Pledgettes was just this hub of ways to evolve your relationship with money and work towards your financial goals. And I knew a lot of people needed different resources and different options. So we have a book club, we've got a movie club, we've got so many different choices for you to show up as you are, where you are, and to step into it and take action. So yeah, it's hard to explain because it's not do these 10 things and you'll have a great relationship with money.
I like this idea of a financial therapist, though, I must say.
I didn't know about financial therapy until I started the Pledgettes, and having met financial therapists, I'm like, of course you exist and thank you for existing.
Well, it makes a lot of sense because a lot of your stresses, marital stress, personal stress is coming from your financial situation. So if you have a therapist, you're already talking about it.
Yeah, one exercise that I think there's a huge question around money of what is enough. And an exercise that I learned from a financial therapist is she will often ask her clients, do you have enough money? And then they'll actually go in and look at their net worth. They'll open up the balances of all their accounts, of their retirement accounts and their bank accounts, and how much they're earning and the properties and assets that they have and also the debts that they have. And it's wild because people could answer the question of, no, I don't have enough. And their bank accounts tell a different story, or their bank accounts really do tell the story. So the question of what is enough is, I think, one that only the individual can answer, but it is important to answer because without it, the answer is more. And more is not a good, clear goal. And more is never achievable. So to get really clear and kind of go through some exercises with a financial therapist is super valuable. And financial therapists work with couples all the time of like, if one has an abundant mindset and one has a scarcity mindset, how does that show up in their relationship? What did those experiences of the way that they grew up with money show up in their marriage now? And so once a year, the week before Valentine's Day, we always do a couples event. And it's great because our partners or our members can bring their partners and the partners kind of get to see what we do in the community and get to participate, and they make commitments to evolve their money dates with each other and have better money conversations in their relationship, and it's really cool.
Talking about the earnings gap for women and men and kind of how you're trying to address that, do you see mechanisms already within kind of male culture that have supported the conversations you're trying to create in the Pledgettes that women have not had access to?
Yeah, it's interesting because at this couples event every year, without fail, somebody's going to ask, like, oh, it'd be really cool if there was like a Pledgettes, but for men. And my husband is always quick to say, there is. There is enough for men. And I think it just naturally, there have been, and this is not, 100%. Every man gets these natural networking opportunities and 0 women get natural networking opportunities. But I think if we can evolve, I love being part of a women community here, Tara, in Denver, and these spaces there are more spaces being built for women, and there's more communities being built for women. But at the same time, I think so often there's a lot of toxic messaging that kind of comes with, like, whether it was the girl boss movement of maybe 6 or 7 years ago of like every woman should be a girl boss and go start your own business. It's like, no, not every woman needs to be a business owner or have a side hustle. Like, we don't all have to do the same thing. Or even the know your worth message was a little troubling for me, because know your worth means that whatever you earn is your value. And I don't believe that at all. I think knowing like what you should earn goes beyond a number of external factors. Like, what industry are you in? What clients are you serving? Large corporations pay more than small businesses. Fortune 500 companies pay more than nonprofits do. So what you earn is not your worth. But being intentional on one member of the Pledgettes wanted to make the most money. And so she went from, she was in HR recruiting and tech sales, and then went into financial services. And she was terrible at math growing up. But she studied her butt off. She had Post-it notes all over her bathroom of like bear market versus bull market. She got both of the series tests that she needed to at the company, and she convinced this company to take a risk on her, and then won Rookie of the Year. And it was because her goal was to make money, and she looked at the different industries and opportunities of where she could make the most money and intentionally made that choice. So I think the most important message to hear is to be intentional in your choices and know that there's not right or wrong. If you want to work in nonprofits, but then figure out ways to invest your money and utilize your money to also build wealth, because you don't need to earn the most or have the most wealth. Just have a good life, but be intentional in the choices we're making.
And have some patience, right? Because nothing happens as fast as we want. So I think it's important to note we are talking about journeys and conversations over time and actions over time.
Yeah, time is the best gift in building wealth. It is the best ingredient. And last year in the Pledgettes community, I celebrated that I paid off a mortgage. So I bought a condo 5 years ago in a self-directed IRA. And so when I look back at that huge achievement, it really started 20 years earlier at my first job, where I contributed to my 401k. And at all of my jobs, I always reached at least the company match in my 401k, and that built up over time. Then I rolled that out of the 401ks, created this self-directed IRA, bought property with it. That's as a tangent. If you're interested in what a self-directed IRA are, there's a lot of resources online. I'm not here to give advice and tell people that they need to do it, but I bought a condo in this self-directed IRA with the small mortgage. I paid that mortgage off, and as I celebrated this win, I'm like, oh, I got to go back to 2003 Jen and thank her for making those 401k contributions, and thank the financial advisor that came into our company and showed me a table of compound interest, and thank my mother-in-law's husband for telling me what a self-directed IRA is, and thank my parents for the conversations around real estate investing, and thank my realtor for helping me find this, So it just that was a huge thing I celebrated last year, and it took 20 years of financial action to do that. So I think it's very important to remember that even seemingly small actions will compound over time and build up over time. Right now in the Pledgettes, we have a challenge of find $1,000. What are all these levers that you can pull to find $1,000 to put that towards your goal? And there's not a timeline on it. So for some people, it might take them a month to find $1,000. It might take others 3 months. It might take someone a year to find $1,000. But what levers can we pull in our spending and our earning and our investing to find $1,000 to put towards our goal? And then that kind of momentum is contagious.
Well, when you were talking about being grateful to people who kind of set you on this, you mentioned this financial friends and this idea of your A team. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the number one question I always get is, can you introduce me to a financial advisor? I think financial advisors have done a wonderful job of marketing that everyone should have a financial advisor. And most people should. They're a great person on your financial A team. But I think you actually need a team of people to help, because as we build wealth, there's more opportunities and options that we have. And so it's not just this long-term retirement planning and taking advantage of tax-advantaged accounts like IRAs that CFPs and financial advisors are so great at, but we need a team of people. So we need the specialists like the advisors, the bankers, the lenders. We need connectors. I love connecting people to specialists and friends. We need mentors and mentees. We need our financial friends who are here to celebrate and share experiences. And we need diverse thinkers. So I mentioned earlier that we had a speaker come in on cryptocurrency and another on day trading. And I love learning from them, because while I'm not invested in crypto and I don't do day trading, I learned how they have evaluated risk. How did they get into it? Why is this one of the strategies, and how much of what percentage of their wealth is in this strategy? And so we get to learn from each other on these experiences, and there's a lot of value in the diverse thinker, especially now as more and more opportunities and wealth building ideas are out there. We just get to keep learning.
I think I've learned a lot from you today. Thank you. If people want to learn more about you or get involved or come to an event, tell us how we do that.
Yes, please come reach out, follow us on all the socials, check out our website, thepledgettes.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. Also from the Pledgettes website, you can send me a message, send a message on our socials. That all gets to me, or email me at jen@thepledgettes.com. I love talking about money. I'm here to help you on your financial journey. So I'll be the person at an event to just show up and see that person, so you won't be alone. And I also love connecting people to wherever they're at with their journey, to whoever can help them.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Well, part of the show format that I like to have is a longer conversation that's more organic, but I also want to feature as many voices as I can of women in different stages of business startup, and learn what's your passion, why did you do this, and what are the risks and rewards that you can share that will help other women on their journey. So next we're going to hear from AC Holmes. She runs a consulting business called Boardless. It's all about how you can bring play into the workplace. Well, thanks for talking with me today. I'm really interested in learning more about women who are running their own businesses and kind of sharing things with other women who are in different phases, even if it's just that I've been thinking about this for 4 years and haven't done anything. So if you could, please tell me your name and tell me your business. And then I want to hear about why that business was your passion.
So I'm AC Holmes. My company is called Boardless, and I do consulting for employee engagement and retention, but all of my work is based on the neuroscience of play. It's deeper than team building and and icebreakers and that kind of thing. It brings what I call playful work design. It brings in what happens to us neurobiologically when we are in playful states as individuals and as teams. And the research is finding that the applications for this for professional settings are really far-reaching. So pretty much any metric that you'd be looking at for a company's culture, playful work design can support it.
And do after-work happy hours count as playful?
No.
Because I think that's kind of taken the place of a lot of culture at work.
Yeah. So I actually, if you look through like content or anything that I produce, you're going to see very few mentions of the words fun or games. Fun has definitely been co-opted into this forced fun, mandatory fun. Everybody says just have fun at work. And a lot of people don't want to have fun at work. They want to just work. And my secret for them is that just work is depressing. So there's a researcher in Germany, René Preuer, and he studies adult playfulness as a personality trait, like the area of science that is personality. And his definition of playfulness is the ability to reframe a situation or frame a situation into something that's interesting, entertaining, or stimulating. Not fun. Fun is not a characteristic there. So trying to move away from fun, team building, games, and really coming at it from a work design and a job design aspect that just happens to support playful attitudes and behavior.
So how did you come into this theory of life, if you're going to frame it like you're saying, you know what I mean, what's interesting and stimulating, and like kind of let go of this idea of fun, like going to the amusement park all the time?
Yeah. So I am a certified speech language pathologist. And so working with children in speech therapy, I literally played for a living. I was always on the floor with bubbles and Play-Doh and books and songs and games. And there's tons of research, obviously, out there about children learn through play. That's the best way. And, during the pandemic, when all of us had extra time, I dug deeper into that research and started finding these offshoots of how it actually also related to adults. And then started realizing, again, it was the pandemic, but even a couple years before the pandemic, I knew a lot of people that were in professional settings and roles that they were very good at. Maybe they'd been there for a long time and they hated it. They were miserable, burnout, all that kind of stuff. And just started connecting the dots in all of that there's no reason to think that play would not help for adults. And so really fell into the research for that. And it actually is completely proven by the science. So I couldn't not go down that road because it was exciting to me. And at the time, I did not know of anyone else doing that kind of work.
So you decided to go down this road by yourself and come at it as a business owner. Tell me a little bit about what are you seeing for risk and reward? They can be big or small, but that you would like to share that you think is kind of interesting or stimulating for other people.
Yeah, so I have always been an employee. It was never on my radar to be an entrepreneur. I liked working for other people. I did a good job, and it was generally rewarding for me. But I had this idea, and then it quickly became like a passion, and I couldn't find a professional outlet for it. So decided I just had to do it myself. My background is clinical completely in education. So business experience was minimal at best, and happened upon a co-working space called Tara to see a colleague that was presenting this, actually it was called the Coasters, but it's like a networking game. So I just came to see her and met her, and the co-working space started into this trickle effect of meeting new people, meeting more and more and more and more people. And I learned very quickly from all these incredible professional women, mostly, that I was a startup. And I thought startups were apps, and they were made in California. And it turns out I'm one too, even though I'm not an app. And so I really started diving into the education behind having a business and all of that kind of stuff. And I had been doing some little sort of part-time work as I was moving away from direct speech therapy. So the income was swiftly reducing. But my husband believes in me, whether that makes him a lunatic or amazing or both, probably, said, yes, go for it. Keep trying. And we're still here today. So it still is a pretty big risk, because I was actually, when he was a teacher, a public school teacher and a coach, I was the primary breadwinner. And so we've reversed roles now, it just always just has its own interesting dynamic. And then right now I'm not bringing in consistent income. The trajectory is wonderful, but cash, it makes each month a discussion where we weren't having that before, but it's worth it for us. We haven't taken out any loans. There's risk either way, right? Not going into debt for your business, and there's risk with going into debt for your business. The risks are everywhere, but they're worth it. So to me, because I did good work, what I was doing before, but it was not feeding my soul, which was affecting my personal life. I think many of us have experienced. So now I am doing something that is feeding my soul.
So that's the reward, one of the rewards?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's probably the major reward, is that I am fulfilled. It's part of the work that I want to provide for organizations, because when we're not fulfilled, even at work, even if we do everything, we don't care. That's just a job. It's just a paycheck. It gets to you. So, that's definitely my reward. And then it's also been really, really fun. So my son is 9, and he's always seen me as a passionate working mother, and that, he's seen that before. But I also think he thought I frivolously played for a living. He didn't understand it yet, and that's fine. But I was interviewed for a podcast recently, and I guess my husband had been listening to it in the car, and he heard it, and he said, "Is that you?" And the pride that was beaming from his little face, I was like, "Oh, this is it." So him to see that too, that's really rewarding. And he gets it. He'll talk about "Oh yeah, are you gonna tell the other adults to play today?" He gets it, and he'll talk about it. So we should do more of that at our school. And I'm like, well, your school is actually pretty good about it, but yes, it can always be more. So yeah. So those are my rewards, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. It's encouraging. A lot of women probably think about how they would like to work for themselves or find their passion, or would they be fulfilled, and it's really good to hear someone who was like, I'm gonna step outside the box and do that, because I've been thinking about it, and thinking about it is also a real thing, right? Mm-hmm. When you're thinking about it, that is startup mode, right?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And I think another thing that I found is that there are way more resources than I would have ever expected to be available. Free classes. So if I would never be able to market, or, I don't know how to make a cash flow statement, whatever. There's so many. So the Colorado Small Business Development Centers are rich, full of, and they will just give them to you. You take one class, you get sort of an assigned consultant kind of thing. You could just email them anytime, and you say, I have this random question, and most of the time they're like, here's your answer. And it's sometimes down to the level of legal advice, and then getting involved in communities like Atara. So if it's a situation where a person is thinking it's too big a risk, because I don't actually feel alone. So earlier we said that I am doing this by myself, but I'm really not at all. So I'm not, it's not going to business school, and it's not being a part of an office, but I feel like Denver specifically is full of opportunity to create your own coworkers, even though they have literally nothing to do with what I'm doing for my business. They feel like, ideators and partners. And then, like I said, the education that's out there and provided, and the opportunity for grants and microloans around here are just incredible. So if one of the barriers is considered it would just be me, change your perspective on that. because it can be bigger.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, if people want to learn more about what you're doing, how would they find you?
My website is www.playfulworkdesign.com. And I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. Both are under my company name, Boardless, like be boardless often. But probably if you search my name, I'm really the only AC Holmes out there. Other than that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.